Thanks. Okay, we're recording. Welcome, everybody. This is the SONiC Working Group Community Meeting, and today's Wednesday, May 31st, and I'm covering for Christina while she's on holiday. So thanks for all coming. Got about 18 people. We'll get rolling. So we'll just cover some of the review what happened last week. Just look at the minutes that Christina sent out briefly. So last week we covered several PRs. There's several outstanding, and we'll take a review of those in a moment. They're listed here. And also there's some commits to update some documents. The dash route table entry was updated, and also the SONiC HLD was updated to elaborate some return values for the ACL tagging. So does anyone want to have any questions about this most recent business? Okay. Let me look at the closed PRs from last week and the last few days, and then we'll look at open PRs and issues and open the discussion to whatever is on people's minds. Mircha updated some scale numbers, and Mircha, do you want to talk about this at all, about what was changed here, if you're available?
I thought we covered last week, but basically the number of flows table from 64 million was reduced to 32 million. Mm-hmm. That was one of the big changes to account for 32 gig of RAM for the 200 gig ASIC, and then 400 gig and so on, double of that. So all the numbers for flows have been reduced by half. And also for the hero test, the background traffic, the packet size has been reduced from 1,500 to 500 size. This will increase basically by 3 times the number of packets on the wire for background traffic to add more stress. And also during the hero test, the background traffic from 1 million TCP flows and 1 million UDP flows will have almost to the max, so 15 million and 15 million for a total of 30 million flows active during background traffic. And then for the CPS test, there are like 2 millions left available. Usually the CPS test doesn't take that many flows. It's like 200-300 because it's initiating and terminating them very fast. So concurrent flows are not that many. So 2 million should be more than enough. And I think these are the 3 major changes.
Okay, great. Thanks for that review. Any questions before we move on? This might be a good time if anyone has any clarifying questions. Okay.
I have a question. I
go ahead.
think I saw Gohan reverted those pull requests, but I may be wrong. Could you please check?
What was the question, Andre?
Yes, I think he reverted the commit.
Yeah, Gohan reverted those merge, I guess.
So these have been backed out?
Yeah, the commit got reverted. I think Gohan was not clear on the changes. The diff of the file as presented by Git.
I see, that's right. This is the commit to the merge, and then it's reverted.
And so, the lines, I try to make some.
You might be cutting out, Mircha. I think we've lost you. So if that's the case, thank you for reminding me, Andre. We need to reopen this PR then, right? Or how do we want to handle this? I think you've lost Mircha. All right, I'm going to just make a note.
I'm here. I mean, reopen is fine. It's just that I was not able to do. I don't think I have the rights to do it. So
to reopen it?
Yeah, reopen will be great.
There seems to be a comment about rich diff versus normal text diff.
Yeah, there was I think probably there's some kind of a formatting or end of line change that caused the whole file to look like a diff.
I'm not sure if that is necessarily the problem. Gohan commented, I don't know what the difference is or something like this. So then.
Okay. Or yeah, the
I
show.
don't know why the normal diff doesn't work. I mean.
All right. We're going to have to resolve this offline then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So PR. PR. Making notes here. Yeah. All right. So another PR which got closed, merged was 368, and Vincent from Excite made some changes. He was using a newer Ubuntu to get some compiler optimizations for his work, and it caused issues trying to link his libsci with the scythrift generated code, which had a Ubuntu 2004 per the build environment Docker files. And so he made some changes to allow you to pass in basically a different tag for building the Ubuntu based Dockers. And so he's got an environment variable he can pass in. Let's see if I can find that. Yeah. So, it's got a tag here, and I think pass that in there. So he's got it so you can override what was a static Ubuntu tag with an environment variable that can be passed in. That way you can customize your build. If you're, vendor implementations, they can still use the dash repo, but they can customize easily to use a different Ubuntu. So that's what this PR was. Any questions about that? It just illustrates another way to try to reuse as much of this repo as possible in your own backend work if you want. But we found over time opportunities to do little tweaks here and there to make it more customizable. So that was accepted. And that's pretty much the last two PRs that got closed, although this one got reopened. And then let's look at open PRs. So this one here, I've reviewed this and it looks good to me. And Yuriy submitted some changes to tweak some PTF Vnet tests. And if I'm not mistaken, that's work done on behalf of Intel. Is that correct, Reshma?
Yeah, Yuriy has made some changes. Is Yuriy on the line? Okay, he's not here.
That's okay. Yeah, he's not on this call, but I did review this and it looks pretty, pretty innocuous. And so I approved it. Does anyone else want to weigh in on this? Otherwise, we can merge it. Okay. Make a note.
Thank you. It would be great to merge it.
Yeah. Okay. Do it right here live. Okay. Done.
Thanks a lot.
Yep. No nonsense group. We get the work done, right?
Okay.
Let's see if there's anything else here. So another pull request that is pending, and it's looking for review from hopefully from Ze Gan, who filed an issue this issue about security risk here in ixia-c controller. So ixia-c software packet generator, it consists of two Docker images. One's a controller with a REST endpoint, and then it consists of also traffic engines that are managed by that controller. And he discovered that the controller had some older TLS 1.0 and 1.1 were still enabled. That was just because it was using a standard Go distribution for the endpoint server, and no one had disabled those modes. So I've updated to use newer version where we took out those modes, and just needs approval. So I've bumped Z to ask him to take a review of this down here, and so hopefully he'll see this ping here and review it. If anyone else wants to review it, they're welcome. So I updated ixia-c controller, and also as we upgraded ixia-c controller, we're using the default port of 8443 now instead of 443, because this was interfering with some people's environments that were already using HTTPS. Also updated Side Challenger submodule, which PL Vision already approved. And that was to also upgrade to this newest controller, and did a few improvements to the make files along the way. So that's what that's about. And any questions about that? Okay. So the next item here, Oleksandr did some changes for dash route table entries, and looks like it's looking for someone to review it. If anyone here wish to review this, it would be helpful so we can get signed off and approved. It has to do with changing route entries here.
Yeah,
It's
maybe
a
we can
change
take a look.
that is done for examples. So in the examples with the action direct, we had Vnet as a part of configuration, and it is not required. So I'm just updating the example configuration.
Okay, so it's just a correction, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Is this the same that we discussed last week, Oleksandr?
Yeah, it's
Oh,
the
okay.
same.
Thank you.
Yeah, if someone would like to review this and approve it, that would be appreciated. Then I can merge it.
Got it.
Yeah.
We can do that.
Pretty innocuous, right? Let me make a couple notes here. And okay, so we could take a look at some of the more recent PRs that are still pending and try to do some, house cleaning, push things along. Does anyone want to discuss any of these PRs? Whoever's championing these? Well, actually, I do want to bring up this one, Vladimir. This one's been around for a while. How do things stand with respect to this? And Reshma or Vladimir either might know about this one. This one seems to be blocked by some Psi working group activities.
That's right. Yeah, there is, it's been blocked. So there is work in progress. The change to revert the site, commit, or basically to fix that is very large. So that's under progress.
Okay.
We'll be able to merge once that is completed.
That'd be great. Thanks for the update. I know this has been a long haul, this one.
Yeah, okay.
So, we have some other ones here that have been pretty active lately. This one here, adding support for metering to So does anyone want to talk about any of these and push them along? Are there any discussions we want to resume? Vijay, you've been working on this one quite some time.
Yeah, Chris. So just an update that I've updated the PR with all the comments. I think there were a few comments on the PR, and there was also one by Andy about changing the P4 code for the counters. So I've addressed pretty much all of them. Yeah, I think there are no other outstanding comments, and it should be ready for merge if everyone is okay.
Okay, so you put a lot of work into this, sir. And let's see, everything CI runs now. I know you had to take some test cases and comment them out because there were some waiting for some issues to resolve. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. So we had to skip a few tests because, yeah, I think we are still waiting on some of the side challenger fixes and the metadata update. So once that is resolved, I think we can re-enable them.
Yeah. I know Field Vision is working on this part here. Had some discussions. And
Yes, that's correct.
yeah, so that's ongoing. So that's one dependency. And Mert, did you have any updates for the group on item 2 here, the DPU gen with the new attributes?
Any updates, sir?
Okay. I think this also brought up the discussion that's that we have some attributes inside when they're not mandatory, if they're optional, that we're still kind of rejecting entries in the P4 runtime. They don't have every attribute. I think that's really a P4 runtime, P4 limitation, if I'm not mistaken. Andy, you recall that discussion? If we have a table and we're mapping, let's say, table action parameters to psi attributes, P4 runtime is not forgiving with respect to when you have action attributes. Every item has to be explicitly set in a P4 runtime call. Is that correct?
My understanding, yeah, the pfrontime API requires all action parameters to be set. It doesn't let you specify a partial list and then keep using the current values for the other things, the other parameters that you don't specify.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect item to discuss in some of our ongoing discussions in the P4 runtime working group. Probably want to consider cases like this where items can have default values. Make a note on that.
Seems like a perfectly good topic. I think Vlad was hinting at that in this recent generic table discussion as a desirable feature. So, but you're just talking about for generic table, for regular old tables too, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for this one, the folks who have added the comment, if they can approve and look at the changes incorporated and approve, it would be good.
Yeah. So backing up a step, it would be nice if we could get some reviewers now that this has had a lot of feedback incorporated. Let's try to set a goal to get this looked at the next week so we can sign off on it and review it. That would be greatly appreciated. Thanks for all the hard work and putting into this. This was a big task.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take it. This is Shitanshu from Intel. I'll take a look at it, the updated, then get the review.
That would be great. Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
I'm sorry. What was that comment? Vijay, did you say something?
No, I think, yeah, if everyone, all the people who commented can just take a look and then approve it, yeah, I think it should be ready for merge. The only other thing would be the Psi APIs. I think we have to raise a separate PR for the SAI API header updates in the OCP report.
Yeah, what's the process for that? We kind of do this in batches, right? Where every once in a while we push the generated SAI headers into the into the SAI.
Yeah, if we want to push the metering specific SAI changes in one bucket in one PR, it would be actually good. That way we can always, look at one PR to get all the SAI changes for metering.
So what would be, who normally takes that on? What's the process? Reshma, can you or someone explain?
So far, Marian has been pulling those SAI APIs, right? And he has been merging. In this case, if the isolated set of SAI API changes can go in from Vijay's side, it will be fine and it will be good, I think. It's important to get this into SAI soon as possible.
Okay, Marian, do you have any?
I have a quick question on this process, Reshma and
Yeah,
Chris.
sure.
Do we do we stamp it with some sort of a version number as we put these APIs or push these APIs down to the SAI repo?
Marianne, would you like to comment? Is he there? Oh yeah, Marianne. Any versioning you have been using so far? I think it's just a PR, I think,
If it's just a PR, then I would question at which point we say, I mean, generally the practice, as you know, and previously with the switch SAI that we have, or what we call underlay SAI APIs, which are generally, not auto-generated, but they are essentially are discussed and ratified and standardized and so forth, right? And then and the SAI headers are generated, and then they're stamped with certain versioning numbers so that people know that okay, which version number they're using from one release to the other. So
okay, release version you're saying. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So I think what happens is that if we are pushing it in, if we are still experimental, then perhaps it might be okay. But at some point, you say, okay, I'm giving you these things, and I'm basically solidifying a certain release version of SAI API, and then if you can conform to that, then essentially this is what it is. But obviously we know that the APIs do change, and then but they are in some ways backward compatible or so forth. But at some point we have to see that okay, we have to have a process through which we are going to publish these auto-generated APIs for people to consume, and then make their SAI conforming to those API SAI libraries. I think we have to have some process around it at some point in time. But I'm just raising
it's the same for Dash API right now in SAI. So currently we have all the API available in the SAI 1.12, and it's not going to change. So it's like stable version, and the latest master has like all the latest updates.
Basically, we are following SAI's release process.
Correct.
I guess, yeah.
Good. That is good, actually. So then we are aligning ourselves with the actual switch SAI, and everything is combined together as one giant API header file, and then and whenever the next is going to be, we align with the next one. But in between that, okay, got it. Okay, understood. Thank you.
So this is the SAI repo and the experimental, right?
Yeah, right now you have a master branch, and you can choose like a list of branches, and there is in the bottom there is 1.12, and it's like the stable version.
Okay, and it's still under experimental.
Yeah, it's still under experimental. Yeah, but it is connected to a certain version of the SAI, and the API is not going to change. Yeah.
That sounds good, but why is it still under experimental? And we have to see at some point, discuss when it can be moved from
It's
experiment.
question to Prince. There is a plan for
Right.
that, but I'm not aware of the dates.
So do we think that someday dash headers will live under the standard include directory then? They'll get promoted to this one and just be another set of first
Set
class
of
citizens.
funds. Yeah.
What would signify that, do we think? Do we have opinions in the group when it could reach that point? Is there a
I
consensus?
think I think we also have some sort of a milestone, Chris, that we want to have, say, okay, it's a 1.0 SONiC dash or whatever basically we want to come out with, right?
Right.
Mhm.
Should that not be the milestone that we can say, okay, this is my 1.0 for a 0.1 for my psi also, and then we at that time they graduate from experimental to the next level, right? I guess.
Mm-hmm. I guess so. This community has to be sort of ready to step up to the plate and say we're committing to 1.0. It's stable. It's frozen. We've had our debates, right?
Yeah, we have our debates
Right.
and we have our testing as well, right? So
Yeah, more.
if
Okay. It's a good reminder that we're heading there. That's our goal, right? That's when we graduate. Okay, great. Good discussion.
Dash's own release and then, yeah, graduation.
Yeah, graduation 1.0. Okay, so we've covered kind of some of the PRs. We still have some other ones that are on the table. So this needs review. 372, 371 needs review. 365 needs review. Let's take a look at some other ones and see what's going on. 366, I guess Prince had to leave the meeting, so he's not here to speak up for that. Does anyone have any comments about this? Looks like there's several reviews requested, including one for me, and I haven't read it. I'm not really sure what the changes are here. Fast path. Can anyone recall if we've actually walked through these changes in a meeting? Might have not caught it. So
This may have been mentioned earlier, but I'm not sure if we went through like a full review.
mm-hmm. So I think we probably want Sunny to Prince to walk us through this, just to give it some context. This is an old one, and it hasn't really gotten any recent attention. I remember there was quite a bit of discussion and questions about this one. I don't think anyone's on the call who's pushing this one. So that kind of covers, let's say, most recent stuff to refresh the team with. Are there any topics or issues anyone wants to dive into today besides what we already covered? Okay. Well, we can keep this to be a perfunctory meeting. Just good to have refresh of everything. Just remind people the SmartNIC Summit is in a couple of weeks in San Jose. In case anyone had any thoughts of going, there's going to be a pretty strong Dash component. Microsoft is hosting a full day of Dash workshop on Tuesday, I believe. First day or the 0th day of the show. They call it pre-conference. I know we'll be joining in some presentations there. So I think a number of people from Microsoft are taking the trip down to San Jose to participate in the workshop and the conference in general. So if you do think of going, it might be a good chance to meet some people face to face who've been involved in this project.
Do we have the agenda for that workshop already published?
SmartNIC, the Dash workshop.
Yep.
I think it's still kind of in flux. You know, it's sort of I think some items have been locked down. There might be, you know, some slots that are still being debated, but I'll ask Christina if there's kind of a firmed up agenda, would that maybe have an impact on whether you go to the summit or not?
Yeah. Yeah, that or anybody else that I basically want to really send. So just to see what is there to present beyond what we already discussed during the Dash calls and so forth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know there'll definitely be like intro to Dash, and you know, for people who will be, some people come to these summits where they really are coming to learn, almost from, you know, very little knowledge base about either SmartNICs or applications. So I know there'll be kind of a general, you know, intro part, but then there'll be a significant slot on testing, which, you know, we'll present some of our stuff, which will be very familiar. But I don't know about all the other topics yet. So I'll ask Christina about that. That would be good.
Yep, that'll be good. Thank you so much.
Well, thanks for asking. Yeah. And just a slight related topic. I was talking to Andy here about P4 runtime. It's related in that, you know, we're using P4 runtime for the behavioral model. You know, we've already found certain limitations in the P4 runtime in trying to map it to Psi and having optional attributes. And the way we've done that mapping, it's kind of interesting, you know, circumstance. But we are at a point in the P4 runtime or the P4 API working group where we're looking at new requirements and enhancing the spec to handle things that have come along in the last few years that P4 runtime didn't originally anticipate. And a lot of that's driven by SmartNIC type devices. And the scale of tables is one thing, and the flexibility required for controlling extern functions in P4, which extern functions can be mapped to things like encryption modules or hash generators, even counters and meters. And P4 runtime was designed at a time when some of those functions were pretty simplistic and easy to characterize and make canonical versions. Intel is spearheading a look into using something called generic tables and adding that to P4 runtime. And so it does kind of intersect with the interests of this working group. So if anyone's interested, you know, they can drop in on a P4 working group, P4 API working group anytime. And I co-chair that with someone from Google. And Andy is often at those meetings as well. We're kind of partners in crime there. So feel free to join up just to listen or learn or participate. There's definitely a lot of intersection.
Is it like every 2 weeks, Chris?
Well, the normal schedule's once a month. I should say every fourth Friday to be more accurate at 9:30 Pacific. Right now we're having weekly meetings to work on this generic table issue because it's pretty involved and, you know, we're hammering out. So when there's sort of routine business every 4 weeks, but we have a special, let's say, task force where fewer people come and we're meeting once a week to try to make progress on P4 runtime generic tables. So it's a good opportunity just to listen in and if you want to participate.
No, thanks for the info. It sounds pretty interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, and Andrew just posted a link in our chat here with the master calendar. So anyone's free to join anytime. Yeah. Thanks. Okay, well, we won't need to drag this meeting out any further than necessary. I think it's time to close up the meeting, and unless there's any last minute items anyone wants to bring up. Okay, thank you all for attending. Have a nice week.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Chris.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a good day.